Και έχω αναλάβει να κάνω την εισαγωγή για την επόμενη ομιλήτριά μας. So I will switch to English because our next speaker is Cecilia Bonefeld-Dahl. Nice to hear from you. Good morning. So she's the Director General for Digital Europe. So the floor is yours, Cecilia, and then I will come back with some questions that I have, okay?
For sure. Thank you so much. And good morning, everybody. I hope that you had a wonderful morning. Thank you so much to Seppe, and thank you so much to Jota for inviting me for this event. I think we have been speaking here for the last 5 years or something like this, and I think I have promised that next year I will be in person also. Seppe is a member of Digital Europe, and maybe, you know, to show you a little bit who we are. We are the European Association for Digital. We cover around 50,000 companies in Europe, and of course, Seppe is one of our very active and very good members that we work with. We have organizations in 35 countries, and we work on everything that you can imagine on policy, meaning all the policy files like the AI Act, the Data Act, the Cyber Resilience Act, but also on semiconductors, on defense, and many of the key sectors for Europe are represented in Digital Europe. Buildings, finance, banking, not least increasing number of public sector stakeholders, defense, mobility, and not least also health. Why? Well, because Europe basically leads in many of these sectors on digital. It's often said that Europe has lost the wave of digitalization. I actually think that is not true. We are actually right now looking at a Europe where in manufacturing we have the best and most efficient manufacturers. In health, we have some of the world's leading innovations. But it is also true that we need to become much better at growing digital headquartered companies also in Europe. Everybody wants a strong partner. US is doing amazingly on digital companies, but Europe has a few issues to which I will return. So let's look at the next slide and see the takeaways from today. Is how do we actually grow companies, and what are some of the reasons that we didn't grow some of the most digital companies in the world? Well, I think we need to get back to basics. We now very soon have a new commission and a new parliament, and for that matter also a new collaboration with the council, with the ministers in the countries. So what needs to be at the heart is the single market. 30 years and 60% of the barriers that are hampering us for trading and growing across border are still the same as 30 years ago. As we all know, without a single market, well, no digital companies, because digital and the digital era demands 3 things: scale, speed, and a big single market in which they can grow. So, the twin transition, to do that, we really need a public-private partnership, and not least, without the right skills, this will all be absolutely impossible. Good, let's jump to the next slide. We published in 2019 a manifesto called A Stronger Digital Europe. And for the first time, we set some really some hard KPIs for how do we measure success. And I actually think this is one of our biggest mistakes in Europe, is that we don't measure our success. Success means how much regulation can we make. But if we look at the situation, we have 8% of our companies that are using AI. In US, that is around 50%. If we are looking at how many people don't have the right skills, well, more than the half of our citizens don't have the basic skills. 8% of our SMEs trade across one European border. Can hardly be called a scalable market. Well, and 8% is the number that keeps on coming back to us, where the others are at 50, 60, or 70%. So how do we improve that? How do we make more companies use AI? How do we make much more scalable companies? Another times 8 is that we only have 8% of the world's unicorns, fast-growing tech companies. And that is actually a quite high number, because that's if we also count the United Kingdom, who unfortunately left the European Union. So we have a problem that we need to solve. And Greece is, of course, one of the stakeholders that can lean in and say, we want more collaboration on procurement across border. We want more of the single market barriers removed. We don't want necessarily more regulation, and we want to harmonize the regulation that we have. We know that, I mean, Ursula von der Leyen has been a very brave president. She stepped up and said, we will cut the burden of reporting for companies with 25%. Well, we think they should be cut by 50%. We cannot become a continent where we need to hire lawyers instead of coders and innovators. We need to find a way to scale and become one single market. Then, of course, when we look at the public sector services, we are very digital in Europe. We have countries like Estonia, Finland, Denmark, and hopefully soon Ukraine, who has a specialist platform for public services and maybe be the world's best. So how can we grow in these technologies? Right now, some of these companies tell me that it's impossible to sell in other European countries. They are going abroad to Australia and to US and other places to sell their software. So let's look at how we all can, in the future and for the next commission, grow and scale across border. Europe 2030 is our new manifesto, and a big thank you to Seppa and to Jutta also for really being an active participant in setting the future goals for digital. A digital powerhouse, we have a long way to go, but if we don't do it well, the consequences will be devastating. Everybody talks about resilience, and as you say, it says European tech leadership and resilience. How do you have a resilient society in a world where we have cyber attacks, wars at our doorsteps? Well, one of them is to be digital. We know that the companies during the pandemic, they were digital. They had growth, whereas all other companies had, a very hard time surviving during the pandemic. So we need to become a digital, scalable powerhouse. Let's look a little bit at how we set those targets in the next slide. So we chose 5 major areas. A competitive Europe. If you're not competitive, I mean, it's like the fish in the sea, right? The bigger one will eat the smaller ones. And that is, to a large extent, what happened over the last 25 years. So how do we make Europe the best place in the world to make business and scale? What if we actually launched a survey across all European CEOs and asked them, if you should choose one place in the world to scale and invest in your companies on digital, where would you do that? And they all answered, in Europe. Well, maybe not all, but right now it looks like it's less than 5%. So we should really try to get that figure to at least 50% within 2030. We get what we measure. Let's measure success on the single market through competitive companies. Green transformation, the sustainable and healthy Europe. Well, green and health are actually 2 of the sectors where we lead on digital and on companies that can help this green transformation. So a close collaboration between the private and public sector is absolutely key here. And that we have some kind of EU procurement processes that basically supports the scale of buying these solutions across border. Then a resilient and secure and innovative digital Europe. Well, resilience, as I said, cybersecurity skills, and I'll get back to you, that is absolutely crucial. And a mandatory cyber check for all EU laws. Why? Because we saw with the Data Act and many other things that we last minute had to really make the policymakers aware that opening up data of IoT devices in windmills will mean that a lot of enemies will get access to the data and know, for example, where the windmills are positioned. We cannot just legislate without having a deep knowledge on cybersecurity and on online threats in general. Then a global Europe. Well, show me your friends and I should show you who you are. Well, in a world where we have increasingly tension, first of all, we have friends. We have all the EU countries. They are our friends. And then we, of course, have the NATO scope, US and other friends that are very, very close to us and with whom we stand together in times of conflict. It is very important also on digital that we make our societies and our supply chains much more resilient to the future, and that we find out how we work together within Europe and, of course, with our allies. Then looking at the last one, a digital European society. Well, I lived in China in around 2005 to 10, and the strategy was amazing to see there, how they were investing in digital skills. The same in India at the same time. And well, it is who have the digital skills of the future who will succeed to lead the world. I must say that we have seen also Ukraine. There is a reason why they are doing so excellently, in fighting back the malicious Russian invasion of their country. Well, for the Nordics, the Ukraine was the coding house of all the Nordic countries, and they have developed a large amount of digital skills since they were liberated from the USSR. This is one of the reasons that they are able to fight the Russians back, making an effort of 1 to 5. Last but not least, even now, it is impossible for European young people to travel across border and study. They are told, well, your education from Greece or from Belgium is not cannot be used in Denmark or Sweden, and vice versa. How can we make the future totally seamlessly with having people studying across border? Can we have a skills passport that they travel with so they can basically also study and work in other countries? These are only some of the solutions, and I really hope that you will read our manifesto, A Digital Powerhouse 2030. Let me jump to a few details of the manifesto. I said what we measure is what we get. Policymakers should also be measured at this, right? That's what we do in companies. Let's measure success on how we actually create results. And I hope that the government in Greece will also create their own KPIs for how they measure their success in green and digital. First of all, a suggestion could be, well, the world's biggest tech companies right now, we have 11% if we go by earnings. If we go by market cap, it is unfortunately a lot lower, like more like 4%. Why? There is no reason for this. And everybody wants a strong partner. Why should we not have some of the largest companies headquartered in Europe? Maybe on green, maybe on health, maybe on public services. There are many areas where we lead, where we can actually take a lead position. While European SMEs trading across borders, no scale comes from staying in Greece, Denmark, or Germany. It comes from scaling across your internal market. So right now, it's a little bit above 8%. We would like to see 30%. Let me take just one other. You can see the rest on the screen. So if we look at EU companies using cloud and big data and AI, as I told you, AI is only 8%. Why would it not be much, much higher? And for sure, we cannot regulate our way to making companies adopt. Right now, we know that the AI Act will cost for one company that has 50 employees around, hang in there, 300,000 euros to implement. I can tell you, I ran 2 scale-ups. It's not every day that you find 300,000 extra euros to invest in lawyers and compliance cost on regulation. On top of that comes the Data Act, the Data Governance Act, the Cyber Resilience Act. We need to find a way to implement regulations in a much easier way. Maybe even set a target that says within 2 months, every company has a right of having legal clarity in the internal market. We cannot slow them down. They should not hire lawyers instead of innovators. So let's make sure that they can scale across border. Well, coming to that, the single market, of course, absolutely at the heart of what we do. And somehow we forgot about it. We forgot that we speak many, many different languages, that we have separate procurement systems, maybe common rules, but not common projects and procurement processes. Well, you know, selling your goods in Denmark doesn't really make scale, and it will not help you to scale across border. So we really need to find a way of harmonizing this so we can have the companies using an internal market and also public procurement as it was one. And find a way of making sure that companies can get legal clarity and compliance clarity at a very, very short timeline. Maybe we can regulate, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, but definitely not like now. Sometimes it takes up to 8 years. In the long run, we are all dead, and we will not be able to compete if we do not get that scalability. Let's jump to the next slide. And let this be on a positive note. Greece has been one of the countries that has really shown, actually together with Spain, how this green and digital transformation can really take place. They go hand in hand. Greece has also been, you know, one of the biggest targets for foreign investment and big investments also in public services. I hope that you will keep that direction. It's very, very important. Now, well, one of our unicorns that are competing for being the most innovative scale-up in Europe is actually working exactly on this, using AI to improve efficiency for wind turbines. Well, we see how we can create a twin transition fund to coordinate investment in green technologies across border, scalable solutions across border. And the EU and the member states should adopt a green and digital transformation strategy for key economic sectors. And saying that, most of the EU member states have still not used all their recovery funds. Remember that we got a target of 20%? I know that Greece spent even more than that, but everything that has not been spent yet should be spent on the green and digital transformation. Let's jump to the next slide. So there is no resilience without skills. And actually right now in Greece, in ENISA, the certification for the future certification for cybersecurity is being defined. And hopefully, I mean, Digital Europe will facilitate so cybersecurity academies and cybersecurity hubs in each member state, or maybe even in each region. And we're very happy to work together with CEPE on building that cyber hub. We need to build the skills of the future. We cannot continue pretending that digital is something for specialists. It is not. We need to develop AI skills, data analytics, cybersecurity skills. And as I said before, the countries that hold the skills will also lead the future. Let's jump to the last slide and the last comment from my side saying, let's stand together. We have been in the single market for 30 years. Digital has scaled speeded up the scalability of companies. And without the single market and removing barriers for the SMEs at the heart of what we do in Europe, we will not be resilient and we will not be competitive. Thank you to CEPE and to the Greek government for really leaning in and pushing this development. We have just started. We have a long way to go. Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much, Cecilia. Just a quick question, okay, because we're running a little bit out of time. So which one of the 20 solutions that you mentioned before we should prioritize as Europe, and meaning the top 2, 3? Okay, which one?
So I have to say, I mentioned a few of them now. To me, the single market, can I mention 3? I mentioned 3. So I would say getting the single market to work and remove barriers for the SMEs. I said it 100 times today. Without the scalability, the rest will not work. Then I would say 5G. We lead on 5G, but we are the continent that basically invests the less. And, if we look at US investment right now, or Asian investment is huge. I know that the Greek government also put forward like 130 million on 5G, but connectivity and the single market, without those two, we won't be able, they are enabler of the rest. And then the last but not least, another enabler, which is of course skills. So we need a market, we need the skills, and we need the connectivity to drive the development in Europe.
Okay, thanks very much. And I have a pleasure very much for all the info that you gave us and all the very good presentation. Thanks very much. We'll talk about, but that's what you said, what's very interesting. Thanks very much. Okay,
Thank you so much.
Cecilia.